City of Stevens Point Public Works Committee meeting, recorded December 12, 2022.
Call the Board of Public Works meeting to order. Trish, when you're organized, can you give us a roll call, please?
Sure. Mayor Wiesa.
Here.
Alder Plassance.
Here.
Fred Hoppensberger.
Here.
Alder Kneebone.
Here.
Alder Morrow.
Here.
Alder Kiemer.
Here.
And Alder Schuda.
Here.
And we have a full committee. First of all, I would like to welcome Alderperson Dave Plassance, who was appointed at our last council meeting, and this is your first committee meeting since then, right?
Yes.
So replacing Alderperson Carlson. So welcome to Public Works.
Thank you.
Arguably the most fun of all the committees. Item number 2 is something that we may wind up just postponing because we talked about it earlier, and that is item 1 is the director's report. We didn't have anything of note in here, but the director's report is included on in your packet. Director, is there anything you wanted to touch on in that report?
If you will allow, there is one thing that I should have highlighted that just didn't, that I missed. And that is just related to the 2023 street improvement project. Residents on there have already received letters, but we will be having a public informational meeting for those residents, anyone else that may be interested, this Thursday, 6 o'clock, right here.
Perfect. All right, now, item number 2.
Actually, I had a question about that very thing.
Okay.
Would it be canceled due to weather? If not, I mean, I plan to be there, but how would we know?
I plan to be here as well, and if we, hopefully people can make it. If no one does it, we'll reschedule it, but do plan on being here.
Regardless
Rain or
of the
shine.
weather, the information
planning-
meeting will go on.
We'll go on.
Yes, if it
No
does
one
get...
should risk their life to be here, though. We can reschedule.
Right. I'm looking at the forecast, working with the streets department to
hoping.
figure out whether or not it's going to be a snow emergency. At this point, it really doesn't look like it. It's just the first winter event of the year, but it wouldn't
hopefully
be rising to the level of a snow emergency yet.
Just
But we'll see.
concerned about that, so
Alder
thanks.
Kiemer.
Thank you. Yeah, I just had 2 quick questions about that meeting. One, my understanding is that would be regarding the 2023 reconstruction projects. So is that Minnesota? Are there specific?
Yes.
Okay.
Minnesota, Algoma, and Texas.
Okay. And then is that something that's just posted on the website, or do residents in those affected areas get postcards, or how is that
Everybody
information?
immediately adjacent to it and a few surrounding other properties, depending on the impact of that, all receive letters
Okay.
inviting them.
Very good. Thanks.
Good questions. All right, item number 2 now is the transportation utility fee design and draft ordinance language. We talked about this a little earlier in the Finance Committee, and it sounds like it's something that the groups want us to bring back, but we are a different group of the whole. So are there questions in regards to the draft? This is a draft, it's framework, not all the details are worked out. But are there concerns specifically relating to the ordinance language regarding the transportation utility fee? We're not looking for action yet. Okay. Go ahead.
It does reference a table, but under trip fee, the per trip rate is determined by dividing the total utility budget as identified in Table A. That's not included in here, is that?
The table has yet to be determined.
Okay.
We're working on that, but basically
I see.
we're looking at the framework of this. And everybody understands what that trip estimate is, right?
I'm a little confused perhaps. So we look at the total number of trips generated in the city everywhere and then calculate an average fee based on per trip. So the fact that I usually only go out about once a week, I don't generate a lot of trips because I have the benefit of being retired and I can stay home and watch TV. But yet I'm going to have to pay a fee based on, festival foods or Metro Market or...
No, not that. So residential, but I can tell you, I go to the grocery store more than you. Let's say I go once a day. I don't.
That's why I'm confused about how
But
that
if-
fee gets determined.
If I go once a day, 7 times a week, and you go once a week, you would take 1 and 7, 8 divided by 2, because there's 2 of us, that would be 4. You would pay 4, I would pay 4. Even though I make more trips than you, it's an advantage to me, a disadvantage to those who don't make as many trips. But it's an average. The same would hold true for the current wastewater utility, or stormwater utility, for example. I don't have as much impervious surface as some people, or maybe I have less or more, but it's an average that we have to go by. So we use something. And so yes, some people who don't make as many trips would be on the lower end of that average. Some people will be on the higher end of that average. But we needed a number to use, and that's where that table comes into play.
So my fee would be based on the fact that 8 trips are made, whether of those 8 trips I make 1, I'm paying for the other, I'm
Yes.
paying for somebody else's trips. Okay.
Yes, that's one way to look at it.
I'm not in favor of a transportation utility. I'd rather see a referendum because I think the public deserves an opportunity to weigh in on this because this is a huge deal. Once this transportation utility gets enacted, it will probably stay. And we will continue to pay this tax because it is a tax as long as the utility exists.
Something really interesting just occurred to me. We can put the transportation utility fee creation on a referendum and let the public decide which one they feel is more equitable. That's an option. We could do that as an advisory on both.
I continue to come back to people like myself on a fixed income. I just wrote a check today to the city for $3,317.24. To pay that next year, I've got to take at least $250 a month out of my $700 Social Security payment and my $600 a month pension. So I guess I would rather vote for a property tax increase than a transportation utility because that would only be a one-off. I don't know that a transportation utility would ever go away. So I would continue to pay the fee as I continue to drive less and less and less.
Alderperson,
So-
I mean,
and-
these are
anyway,
great discussion points,
yeah.
but the only one we're
Yeah.
discussing right now is the language that we would put forth
Okay.
in whatever form that is on the transportation utility fee. 'Cause, yeah, I mean, there's not an easy answer. I think it's
Yeah.
something that needs to be discussed as a community
Yeah.
to see where we want to go with it. But right now, we're only looking at the proposed language.
As President Johnson said, it's a devil's alternative. It's no good answer to
You want the bad
this.
one or the other bad one?
Yeah, exactly.
And
So-
like I said, we're going to be bringing all of this back, but this is one of the many opportunities people will have to talk about the language in that proposal.
Seems pretty straightforward to me, so, I mean,
Anyone else? Alder Morrow?
I know in the finance packet, it was noted that there are several legal challenges that are still up. So I think that if we would go through with trying to define what we want, I know this is the first stage of this, but at least to get it, at least get the ball going, to see if we have something that we could put forth to the voters and also be able to amend with the pending legal challenges.
Any comments from the audience? Okay. David, Alderperson Shore.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm kind of poking around in the utility, which probably means I should talk to a department head or two. But back to this idea of averaging across all residential properties, wouldn't it be possible for us to not have a flat average spread across all, but have some adjustment to, I don't know, whether lot size? I mean, where one lives within the city is a factor in how much of the roads one uses also, right? So I don't know whether lot size or zoning, because zoning in the denser areas is different. I don't know. I'd like us to maybe look at some of those issues. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Bill, go ahead. Come on up to the lectern.
In answer to your...
Bill, I need you at the lectern.
I'm sorry.
Nobody can hear you otherwise, except, well, us.
Dave, just responding to your comment, I live on the outskirts of Stevens Point. I'll say I'm on a fixed income. I'm retired.
I do too.
I don't think that's equitable from that standpoint, that we should be charged more, and our lot sizes are bigger. There's no question about that. That's the way the subdivisions were developed. But for us to pay a higher tax, right now we have no sidewalks, no street lights. We might as well be rural. That's not an offending comment, but I just don't think that's the right approach from that standpoint. I'd rather see it, if you're going to do it across the board. That's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And when people are saying across the board, residential would have basically one rate. Like Joel was saying with the stormwater utility, duplexes might be assessed at a different rate, apartments at a different rate, commercial properties absolutely at a different rate, and businesses and so forth. So it's not one across the board, it would be one per category, if you will. Okay, any other comments regarding the proposed language? Otherwise, we'll have staff get back to work, bring it back for discussion for our next meeting. But if anyone has comments or questions anytime between now and then, please contact the Public Works Director. You can contact my office, the clerk's office. We will get you there. We want to hear your input as we move this along. All right, and speaking of trips and roads, item number 3 is an ordinance amendment to Chapter 9, Section 9.19, establishing ATV/UTV routes, bringing this back again with some additional data that was included in your packet.
I so move.
Approval? Seconded, okay. Now discussion. I do have to point out one thing, and this is completely on me. The map for the west side is inaccurate and does not match the wording of the proposed ordinance. The proposed ordinance is the last version that this group looked at in regards to allowing ATV and UTV routes within the city to get to things like groceries and gas and basically necessities. We had this earlier, and there was some speculation in regards to safety and how things are working out, because it was relatively new when the state of Wisconsin passed that in 2020, I believe it was. So the information was included in your packet in working with the sheriff. Since May of 2021, when the county adopted the use, we only had 6 road accidents. Only one of them involved another vehicle, and a motor vehicle, I believe it was a pickup, hit a parked UTV on the road. No OWIs. The next closest community that responded was the Mosinee, and since they adopted it, they had 2 reportable accidents in the same time period, or about the same time period. The first one involved 2 ATVs that were traveling faster than they needed to for conditions, and one rolled along a curve. And the second one was an operator that struck a parked vehicle that resulted in some injuries. No OWI offenses there. So I guess that's about it right now. Thoughts, comments, questions?
Okay. In looking at the map and stuff, I look like at the old Highway 18 route, and it's like part of it is already ATV, and there's just a few little sections that aren't. So it seems to me that it just makes sense that let's bring all this together and let them get to the stores. Seems like the main benefits are going to be 4 or 5 gas stations, convenience store places in the end. And I don't know how those places operate, but if you get back to the drunk driving stuff, it's like maybe these places should just be informed that this is an offense that the police department needs to know if you're seeing something that's going on at those locations. Because it's new, to Stephen's point, as far as the fact that they'll let them in. But it seems like it makes sense. To me, it's kind of a no-brainer now that you've got the facts.
Thank you. Alder Kiemer.
Yeah, I voted to approve this the last time it was before Public Works, and then I ended up voting against it once it came to council. And part of that had to do with the specific routes that were proposed and kind of a lack of a community acceptance from the River Drive folks who were largely impacted by that particular proposal. So this particular proposal, I have few concerns for 2 of the routes, the east side and the west side. I am a little concerned about the Highway 66 and Stanley Street route. I know that this specified that these ATV routes would be 35 miles an hour and less, and that just seems like a stretch of highway along Highway 66 near the airport where people drive fast. That intersection under the highway is pretty large. So again, I agree with Alder Plaisance that old Highway 18, it's pretty short. So is the one going south on Burlowski to Quick Trip. But yeah, I am a little concerned about that Stanley Street area, and I guess I'm just wondering if anyone else has similar concerns.
Okay. Alder Nemo?
I did not support this last time. I won't support it again. These vehicles are not meant to drive on city streets or highways. They're built for off-road. There's a warning sticker on each one that says they're not supposed to be operated on a highway. Their center of gravity is low, the tire pressure is low, they're prone to roll over at higher speeds, and you only have to be 12 years old to drive one. So if you've got a family and all the kids have their little ATVs, you could have 12-year-olds driving ATVs on Stanley Street or Burlowski Road or wherever. So
You actually can't.
Well, you can drive an ATV if you're
Yes, off-road only.
with your safety certificate. I think you can be 12.
Off-road only, yes.
So we'll have officers at every location making sure that there aren't 12-year-olds driving into the city. I mean, that's unenforceable, like a lot of things. But I just don't think they're safe on city streets, and that's just my opinion. That's my one vote.
Understood.
So-
Thank you. I do need to point out, too, Representative Katrina Shanklin was going to be here this evening. She messaged me earlier tonight saying that she was feeling under the weather, but she did ask that I could let everybody know that she is supportive. Representative Shanklin had some extensive experience over the summer in regards to UTV usage on roads. And she is hoping to be available for questions or comments at Monday's council meeting. Yes, sir.
I voted for this last time, and since then, I've had the pleasure to actually purchase one. And I think the best thing was I contacted a gentleman, and he was willing to give me ideas, give me pointers. And I do understand your thought, they're unsafe. Yeah, the ATVs and some of the UTVs are narrow. Majority of them aren't anymore. Most of these machines now are 6 foot wide. They're 4-person, 6-person, and no, you cannot drive them at 12 years old unless you have a certificate, and you can't drive them on the road, and you can't drive them unless there's an adult in them, even if they're on the road. So you have to have a license. They have to abide by the law the same as you or I. people on the west side that complained, and I listened to a lot of them, and it disgusts me because them same people were the ones driving past my house at 40 miles an hour with their cars. But they complained because the UTV might drive through at 25. So there's a lot of issues here that I don't understand. You know, this summer, even though we did not have an ordinance, 7 times I had a UTV go through past me. And it wasn't a work UTV. It was a person, and I know where they lived. But that was okay. Nobody seemed to complain. But as soon as they bring up to the council, now there's a complaint. You know, it's not the way it used to be where it was, forgive me, the hillbillies and the drunks driving around raising heck. It's not that way. Most of the people out there are your friends and neighbors. Your school teacher, your principal, your job, your boss from work. It could be Dean driving next to me here, having a good time with it. You don't know who it is. People are out there, they want to enjoy themselves. They don't go just to go partying anymore. This is the things to go out and have fun with friends. I think it's a great thing because it brings the people into our town. You know, and we need to do it. We need to give them a little more access. Do we need to give them the whole city? You know, at some point it would be nice because most cities give you access with golf carts and everybody thinks it's great. You know, we worry about how it is with the traffic. You know, most of the drivers that I've seen, unless they're out, you know, really off-roading, they have signal lights and everything on these machines. They are just like cars on the road. You know, so being safe, I think they're very safe. I was very surprised when I was looking into them. So I am very much supportive, and I hope we do it. I actually wish on the west side they'd open up even a little bit more, because I think this would be a great thing for our businesses, for our community.
Thank you. Alderperson Morrow.
I have no problem with the map at all, except for I agree with Alder Kiemer about Stanley Street because that is very busy. I mean, but besides that, I think the rest of the routes seem fine, except for that area.
Thank you. Comments from the audience? Mr. Bushman, go ahead.
I feel like I'm the only one talking tonight.
We're just happy to have you at a meeting.
As I said, you may not want to do that. But I do live on the east side. I'm a block off of Old Highway 18 in the city portion, and as you said, it's a very small portion, probably about a 3-block stretch. That is the city, the rest is the town of Hull. My concern, or our concern as residents is out there, it's bad enough, quite frankly, we do have some ATVs. In fact, I've got a video of one yesterday that went by my house at about 40 miles an hour. The only reason I caught it on my phone is I could hear it. Now, most of them are quite quiet. I do agree, but you're going to find some that are noisy. I wouldn't want to be living on Old 18 and having those come by my house at any time of the day. Secondly, that Old 18 stretch is a residential area. It is not quasi-rural. It is not rural. It is truly residential. I mean, there's probably 30 driveways, at least, along that stretch from Burlesky to Quick Trip. Some of those are by the homeowner's choice, very native in plants, very difficult to back out of. I just think you're asking for trouble. I know there hasn't been a lot of accidents, but there's also a lot of kids on that road, a lot of walkers, a lot of bikers. And I'm not saying the machines aren't safe. They are safe. I'm more concerned about the residences. And also that stretch of highway or road is a funneling channel for large subdivisions that are out in the town of Hull, the city portion. There's a lot of traffic on that road. And as I said in my earlier comments, we have no street lights out there. There are some intersections that are very difficult to see around the corner. I believe there's about 6 intersections along that stretch. I just don't think the reward, as we talked about, is greater than or less than the risk. So I'm dead against it. I mean, I can't change your opinions. I'm just expressing my opinion. I don't think it's the right thing to do in an area that has a heavy residential makeup. And again, if I wanted to live in rural areas where snowmobiles are allowed in the city, maybe I should move to Eagle River or Rylander. But no, I like Stevens Point, but I really don't want ATVs. And my other concern is, again, back to the policing. There is no way you're going to be able to police that, whether it's speed, regulatory compliance. You just can't. And I haven't complained about our people within our subdivision that ride ATVs. They shouldn't be, but I haven't complained. But then the next thing I think of is, well, as another gentleman said, why not allow golf carts? Now, I'd be all for that, but that'll be the next thing. And it's just going to get to be too much on Old 18. That's not a road that is not heavily traveled. It is very heavily traveled. And again, the concern, no street light. There's one street light, I will say that. But of the other 6 intersections is dark. And I know they're going to have lights, but they're smaller vehicles. They're not the same size. They're close as a sedan, or certainly not an SUV, but I just think it's an accident waiting to happen, Mike. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Bill.
That's my comment.
No, I get it. And
Okay.
golf carts are already allowed.
Well, we had a gentleman who you said could not use a golf cart.
They have to be street legal, so they have to have the turn signals, lights, and things like that. And actually, turn signals I don't think are required.
Yeah,
You can
but
use
he was
hand
able to
signals,
maintain
but
the speed,
lights.
and apparently somebody complained, and he had to take it off the road. So, anyway, my
Thank
comment.
you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Renee?
Hello, I'm Renee Simino. I live in the town of Linwood, and I would like to see the west side open up a little bit more. Explicitly, I like Little Chicago, between Little Chicago and West River Drive. We have Rocky Run Road, where the town of Linwood owns half of it, and the city also. That stretch, we have no problems with people that are, again, on their UTVs and et cetera. They respect the area. I have more problems with the little teenage boys in their big trucks. Terry like to buy tires a lot, apparently, for their vehicles. I would like that expanded, open, and also perhaps West River Drive up to the store gas station and the mobile gas station, so people could get gas and supplies and et cetera. That would be helpful in helping the businesses on the west side. Then also Westgate between C and 66 and somehow by Zinda Park, by the school there. You have that little stretch of city road or whatever that I think could be open also for UTVs and that, to help those businesses get some people out there and expand and produce. We want tourism in this town, right? How are we going to do it? Let's do something in that aspect. Then I have a couple other suggestions that you could utilize using this beautiful river, but no one uses it. So I would hope that you would propose to expand outside this, not completely, and however, but outside the townships and whatever, that we share roads with the city, and let's do something nice to each other. So that's what I would like to be done, if possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully, Renee, we can start out small, and if things do go well, and we don't have the same the problems that people think we're going to have, then potentially, but let's start small, I think, first. Bill, do you have something else to add? Yep, you got to come up and...
Just one other thought, Mike, and maybe it was an alternative.
By the way, if you ever want a house in the city, let us know.
I have nothing to do with the realty business. I'm not related to Bob. So my other thought was, rather than using 18, if I read your notes right, or the letter, it was really for food and gas. I mean, I assume that's all they're going to do is go from point X to Quick Trip. And if anybody's been to Quick Trip by Target, that's a traffic nightmare to begin with, between the trucks and the cars. But why not consider, and it's probably a longer route, but why not route them around the backside, have them come up HH and go to the store? What's so important about Old 18 that's much more residential than, and I don't know if there's access without going down J or some other road from Stockton. I really don't know. But I just think going through that residential area is, for food
You're
and
talking about
gas,
the
is not
store on the north side of Highway 10?
No, I'm talking about the store over by the Crossroads Common. Because I don't think you can get to
Oh,
the store.
sure. Yep, off of Burlesky.
Right.
I think that's already allowed because that's a county road.
Well, it probably is. So why are we having to deal with Old 18? I'm just opposed to that because of the residential nature of that area.
All right.
That's my comment.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Is it allowed 45 miles an hour?
That might be the restriction, right, because it's 45 miles an hour, because it can only go, it's what, 35?
So I don't think they can go on Brolowski.
Is it 45 down there?
Yeah, it is 45. It is 45.
I don't know, I do all my shopping in Point.
At DoorDash, so I know it.
DoorDash. Any other comments?
Just Mark Christensen once more. Just a point of clarification, you can approve routes of 45, but then that also then does require DOT approval as well.
And I don't know enough about that one, so I can't answer that.
From when I looked on their website. So it is possible that they've gone through the process and have had that approved then by DOT. So it is within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, and all the county roads are already approved, provided they comply with all of the other laws that already exist. I was asked earlier today, too, about enforcement. Obviously, the police officers we have now don't catch every violation. Bicycles going through stop signs, people speeding, jaywalking, all of those things. We don't catch everybody. However, all of the other rules still apply. They are enforceable. Police departments, city PD, county sheriff, state patrol, even the DNR, all have enforceability rights on ATV, UTVs. So we have we're not going to catch everybody, but there's lots of enforcement mechanisms. Any other comments?
I'll let you go first. Oh, okay. Just a few clarifying questions.
Sure.
It was my understanding that when the ATVs are in use, that their lights are supposed to be on at all times. Is that required or not required? Yes, it is required. Okay, and then I thought I also read that I know 35 was the limit, but are ATVs supposed to go 10 below the limit as well? Or they can go up to 35 if that's the limit?
No, I think they can go up to the speed limit, but we've got some experts who have worked with ordinances in all sorts of other municipalities, so we can have them answer the questions for you. Alder Shorts, you said your hotspot went out, but I can still see you. You're still there. Oh, he froze now. Look at that. He was working.
Mr. Bushman is also frozen as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, that's what it is. It's not David. It's us again. Hang on. Let's switch this around. And there and back. I don't know what the problem is here. Come on.
Here's your photo for the news, Mayor.
Right? That's the problem with, we don't call them bifocals anymore. They're called progressive lenses. Your eyes get progressively worse as you look down. Well, look at that. We froze up. Okay, well, nothing we can do but wait. So, any other questions?
Yeah, mostly those two clarifying questions. And then another option that was brought up last year, which we could still pursue this year as well, is that we could make this a one-year trial option and see how it goes and revisit it. I guess in the scheme of things, like I understand that enforcement would be difficult. Cars are super dangerous. Cars speed, cars are reckless, and I guess
Why does this do this?
I see this ATV as another alternative form of transportation, and just diversifying the vehicles that are on the road. And again, there's some communities in the South, particularly where the weather's nicer, where people drive golf carts all around. So I just think, the way people travel is changing. I'm kind of on the fence on this issue, but again, some of these shorter routes I don't have an issue with. But again, I think it does come down to community acceptance, and if the communities are ready for that, But again, I don't represent the outlying areas, so I haven't heard from my constituents in that regard. But, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Oh, more over here,
I
sorry.
just want to make one suggestion. Same
Get a new
suggestion-
laptop?
Yeah, that would help. I'm going to give you the same suggestion that I got given to me by somebody here. Go for a ride with a group. Pick a few people and go for a ride. You will be surprised. Your whole idea of what you see and what you think is different than what it is today. Really take advantage of. And there's some great people here that has helped me, and I think could answer and help by just going for a ride one afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments on this side? This side? Go ahead.
Jennifer Barden. I live in the city, well, outside the city of Stevens Point, but I am your certified ATV, UTV instructor that lives within Portage County. So to answer a few of the different questions that came up at our last meeting, I was here. I have helped with the Portage County townships, actually passing a few of those different ones. For a few of them in the last couple, there was a few that were outstanding. Town of Buena Vista was one that we recently helped with, and also Town of Albin. Otherwise, all of them in Portage County are now open for the rural areas. The main reason that I was asked to speak is in order to help get a little bit more of awareness for the city of Stevens Point as far as some of the questions that had come up. So I know one of them was the age of operation. So to answer your question, as far as a 12-year-old, you must be 16 in the state of Wisconsin in order to operate a UTV on all public roadways. Anyone under the age of 18 must wear a helmet at all times. I know that was another one that came up that a lot of people were concerned about. And I'll be honest, with teaching the class, I've held 3 of them since receiving my actual certification from the state of Wisconsin DNR. And there's a lot of people that don't realize a lot of the things, and their kids actually learn it in the class, and then they go back and they tell their parents, and then I see their parents out and they're like, thanks, now you're making me relearn how to do all of this. Well, it's part of the education process where we educate the younger ones, and they actually, in fact, teach their parents. The other question that had come up that I'd heard was that it's more of a necessity route so that they can get to the gas stations, they can get to go grab food, go grab water. A lot of these individuals that are riding these units, they're not cheap units. They're $30,000 to $50,000 units. They can range from a 1-passenger up to a 4-passenger. And in some cases, depending on which unit they're actually in, they're larger than some of the cars that actually travel on our roadways. Smart cars, for example, are smaller than an ATV, UTV in a lot of cases. As far as safety, they are equipped with a rollover cage. They do have seat belts, and any of the newer models, they have turn signals, all of your similar actual items that are on an actual car, including the doors. They have a roll cage in them. Without wearing the seat belt, the units won't even actually go more than 10 to 15 miles an hour because it is a safety feature that is built into them. Along with it, a lot of individuals that choose to ride on multiple terrains, they use 2 different sets of tires, one being for your off-road usage, which is your trails, and then they also have the radial tires, which make them safe for travel on the roadways because it is a similar tire to what you operate on any type of passenger vehicle. You were talking a little bit more about the approval of the routes. It is possible to have a route in an area where the speed limit is over 45 miles an hour, as you had mentioned. It's just extra signage needs to be placed to notify the individuals that are riding that it is an ATV, UTV route, and the actual speed limit of 35 miles an hour is the route specific speed limit for that area. Another concern that had come up was about subdivisions and it being a little bit unsafe. I'm not sure if anyone is aware of it, but we can place additional signage in those areas. I do know that in working with Sheriff Lucas, when passing a lot of the different townships, he does not recommend it unless there are concerns, because it is a lot harder to enforce it. However, there are state statutes that if you are within 100 feet of an individual, whether they are walking, biking, any of that type of stuff, that the maximum speed limit is only 10 miles an hour. And it can be posted in these subdivisions if there are concerns down the road, along with the clauses that you had talked about, putting the 1-year clause in. Is there any other questions that anybody had in regards to any of the stuff for the actual ordinance?
Last one, I promise.
Sure.
Just this was something that occurred to me on the way here. Is the same way that we're seeing a trend toward like electronic cars and trucks, are you seeing that same trend with ATV and UTVs where a larger share of them are becoming electronic?
So they have made them, there are electronic versions of them.
Okay.
Will they be used in the state of Wisconsin, in our area? Honestly, probably not. And the reason for it is because the battery life, you're not going to be able to get nearly as far on them. Some of the people that only use them to run to the store and back, they might.
Sure.
But they're more suited for a warmer climate where the cold weather does not affect that battery that is actually put in them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Anything else from the committee? Aldermaro?
Again, the only issue I have is Stanley Street on 66. I know in the past I did not support this, but with the current map excluding Highway 66, I would actually vote yes on this, and I would request I'd request an amendment if I could.
You absolutely have the right to make that amendment, or I guess you would look at the in the actual ordinance proposal, you would be looking at sub 1, sub III is 3.
Yes.
Yes. And you're looking to amend to strike that?
For Highway 66, yes.
Would you leave Wilshire?
That is 4. So the
I would just do Highway 66.
Okay.
Highway 66, like all the way to Rockville?
No, Renee, just the section of 66 that's within the city limits near the airport. So the motion before you is to strike item 1.3, taking out the section of Stanley Street that's located within the city limits from North Court to Wilshire Boulevard North.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion now only on that amendment. Any thoughts on the amendment?
Where would that be? Is that,
It's on the map.
is
So,
it just,
on
is
the-
it all of Stanley Street or just
It would be,
the section that's closest
yeah,
to 39?
as I said earlier, the maps don't exactly jive with the ordinance. So it would be, there's nothing on Stanley Street right now. The ordinance proposal has a part of Stanley Street located within the city limits from North Court to Wilshire
So
Boulevard.
that's the,
It will be
there's
all
three
of Stanley
sections.
Street to Wilshire Boulevard.
okay, you're excluding all of Stanley Street.
That's what this amendment would do.
Okay.
I don't have a concern about like the noise. I know if you were eating at Belts on a Sunday night or something, folks are screaming there by their trucks. And I know there's been other comments about trucks screaming by and so on. I just think that that part of the highway is not really adequate for ATVs, but everything else I think looks fine.
Okay. Is that clear? Because again, the maps do not line up with the
Is
proposed
that-
ordinance.
Is the, I don't know if this is Town of Hull, I assume it's Hull. Is that part of 66, an ATV route?
Yes.
Well, then why exclude the city part of 66? If it's already, I mean, Hull thinks it's safe to drive it on the highway. Why shouldn't we?
We're not Hull.
Saying.
Good point.
I mean,
All
if
right,
you're,
any other-
if you're gonna do it all the way. So,
Any more comments on the motion to amend? Okay, hearing none, we're only voting on the, oh, sorry.
Okay, that section also has bike lanes along the side too, so it is a little wider there for vehicles to travel and an ATV to travel safely with a vehicle right next to it going the same direction, in my opinion.
Okay. This is just on the amendment to exclude Section 3, which is, again, that part of Stanley Street located within the city limits from North Court to Wilshire Boulevard. This would effectively take Stanley Street out of the proposed ordinance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No?
Aye.
So I think I have a 4-3, but I'm going to ask for a show of hands now. If you're opposed, I'm sorry, if you're in favor of the amendment, raise your hand, please. 3, and opposed? 4. The motion fails. Now we are back to the original motion, which is to approve the ATV routes as listed in your packet. Further discussion there? Now keep in mind, just like parking, 905, got to commit it to memory. If things don't work out, we change it. All right, all those in favor of the motion to approve the ordinance as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
No.
I have 2. Alder Kneebone and Alder Morrow voting in the negative. Is there anyone else that voted in the negative? I think we're good. Motion passes. Oh, look at that, we're done.
Just in time.
Everything we considered tonight is going to be at council on Monday, and seeing our agendas exhausted, we are adjourned at, we'll call it 7:59.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.